Hi, I will be using this medium to bring to you a brief talk on coronavirus, courtesy of New Spring Baptist Church, Yaku, OGBOMOSO. My name is Dr. OLUPONA. I'm the Acting Chief Medical Director, Bowen University Teaching Hospital, OGBOMOSO. What is coronavirus? COVID-19. According to the World Health Organization, it is an infectious disease caused by a newly discovered coronavirus. The coronavirus disease is caused by a new strain of coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 that has not previously been seen in human beings. Most people infected with COVID-19 virus will experience mild to moderate respiratory illness and recover without requiring special treatment. Let's talk a little bit about the epidemiology. The first case was reported on December 1, 2019 in a town called Wuhan in Hubei, China. In Nigeria, the index case or the first case was reported on 27 February 2020. The man is an Italian who arrived from Milan, Italy, and Italy is one of the worst hit countries in the world with COVID-19. The situation report in Nigeria as of 7:20 on March 29, 2020 showed that there are 97 cases. 93 of these are active. In other words, they are still receiving care. 1 is diseased and 3 has recovered. 12 states and the Federal Capital Territory have recorded cases. In Oyo State, 7 cases have been reported positive. At the time we were going to bed last night, there were only 3 cases. Now, majority of those who have been infected contracted the disease outside Nigeria. From current evidence, about 98% out of 100% with the disease will recover. In about 10 to 15 cases, it will cause a severe illness. It appears death is not a common outcome and occurs mostly in the elderly patients with underlying health issues. In fact, the only case in Nigeria that has died so far was a 68-year-old man who also had some other health issues. He was receiving treatment for cancer. Now, I want you to pay attention as I share with you tips on how you will protect yourself from contracting this disease. This is as put forward by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. After I've given you the steps that you need to take, I will then explain the rationale, the reason why those steps are important for you to take. 1, you need to wash your hands frequently with soap under running water for at least 30 seconds. Or when that is not feasible, you can use alcohol-based sanitizer. Now, when you wash your hands, I mentioned running water. I know many places will not have running water. But if you wash your hand in the basin, that is not the right way of washing hands. If you do not have access to running water, please get somebody to pour water in a jar and pour it on your hand. So washing your hands with soap is critical. Point number 2, you must avoid close contact with anyone showing signs or symptoms of respiratory illness. In other words, you must maintain at least 2 meters or about 5 feet between yourself and anyone who is coughing and sneezing repeatedly. Those 2 are signs that this person may be having the disease. 3, you must cover your mouth and nose properly with a tissue paper when sneezing and or coughing. And you must dispose of the tissue properly immediately after use. You can also cough into your elbow if a tissue is not available. Point number 4, do not mingle with people or congregate if you feel unwell with symptoms like fever, cough, sneezing, or difficulty breathing. Point number 5, persons with a persistent cough or sneezing should also stay at home until they recover. 6. Obey national and state directives requesting the cancellation and avoidance of large gatherings, including places of worship, social and sporting events. And that is why in our church today, we are not meeting in our sanctuary, but a few of us, less than 10 or maximum 10, have gathered at different homes to worship. Nobody has banned us from worship, but we cannot congregate. And then you must also avoid crowded spaces such as open markets, crowded supermarkets, parties, banks, and pharmacies. These are the measures that the Nigeria Center for Disease Control has put forward to protect ourselves, and if in the unlikely event that we have caught the disease, that we do not transmit it to others. Now, for us Christians, we know that there are several instances in the Bible where quarantine is encouraged. And I want to draw your attention to one of them. That is from Isaiah 26, verse 20. It says, "Go home, my people, and lock your doors. Hide yourselves for a little while until the Lord's anger has passed." And that is why in many states today, the governments are beginning to lock down so that we can break the cycle of transmission. Now, let me explain to you the basis for the recommendations that I mentioned to you earlier on. When somebody sneezes or coughs or shouts, that person produces droplets, and droplets are usually less than 20 microns in size. These microns can continue to travel in the air before the force of gravity makes them to drop to the ground or any surface, and usually that will be 1 to 2 meters from the source. With the right wind and temperature condition, they could go further than 2 meters. And then when the water component dries up, they become what is called droplet nuclei and can travel further than 2 meters. Now, I also want to talk about aerosols. Aerosols, on the other hand, are less than 10 microns and therefore can travel beyond 2 meters before they fall to the ground. But there are particles that are between 10 and 20 microns, and these generally behave like droplets. For COVID-19, there is evidence that it behaves like aerosol and droplets, and that is no good news for us. Now, in hospitals, where patients with COVID-19 are treated, and outside the hospital, overcrowded and badly ventilated locations, someone can contract COVID-19 via aerosol. In the community acquisition of the disease is when someone touches a surface contaminated with COVID-19 droplets and touches his or her face, thereby transferring the infective agent into the eye, nose, or mouth. And that is why we are encouraged to wash our hands frequently, so that by chance, if somebody has sneezed or coughed, somebody with the virus, and the droplets have settled on some surfaces, if you touch any of those surfaces with your hand, and then we oftentimes, touch our face, touch our nose and mouth, you can inadvertently transmit the infective agent, to yourself. And studies have shown that these droplets can last for 72 hours on plastic surface, 24 hours on stainless steel and cardboard, and 8 hours on copper surfaces. So you see that on some surfaces, they can last as long as 3 days. Now, I've seen a lot of people wearing surgical masks or all forms of surgical face mask. Does this help in the prevention of contracting COVID-19? Unfortunately, the answer is no. The mask that we see people wear around gives zero protection against COVID-19. And so people can go away with false sense of security that they are protecting themselves. So those who have cough or are sneezing can wear these face masks just to prevent them from, spreading the droplets. But that face mask cannot even stop COVID-19. And if you wear the mask, then it should be changed as soon as they become moist. And that will last maybe between 2 to 4 hours. So I've seen people use the same mask for days. So they're just deceiving themselves. In fact, they can use that to transfer the virus from somewhere to their own homes. But there is a special type of mask that can prevent passage of COVID-19, and that is not generally available. Now, I want to show you a picture, and you can see the one done by the governor of Oyo State, Engineer Chiye Makinde, and the people with them. I got this picture from the National Insight yesterday. So this is the type of face mask that can prevent the transmission of COVID-19. You can see that this is very, very different from what you see around that people are using in town. So if there is going to be a face mask that will prevent you from having a coronavirus, it is the type that you see in this picture. And of course, unfortunately, this is not available for general use. So you see that I didn't talk much about the symptoms, but I will talk about it now. I deliberately did not start with that because I want you to pay attention to things that you can do to protect yourself. So what are the symptoms? And what you will notice is that these symptoms are not peculiar only to COVID-19. In fact, people who also have colds or other diseases can prevent with dry, but in the case of COVID-19, usually the cough is not productive. In other words, you do not produce phlegm. There is associated fever. There is difficulty in breathing or shortness of breath. There can be tiredness, headache, and loss of or absence of the sense of smell. So this could be pointed to the fact that somebody may be having COVID-19. But if you feel you need to contact someone, the next slide is showing the telephone numbers of the Nigeria's Center for Disease Control that you can call. And if you make a call, it's toll free. In other words, you do not pay for the call. But I can imagine that there will be so many people trying to call. So you can also send short message, or you can reach them on WhatsApp, or if you have a Twitter account or Facebook, the address is also there. And you can also email them using the address that is being shown on the screen. I hope that each one of us will take to heart all the things that we can do to protect ourselves. Washing of hands, regularly is key, with soap and running water. When you fail to do that, you can use alcohol-based sanitizer. This will kill the germ. And please obey the instructions. Do not crowd together. Stay at home. And if you have any sign, isolate yourself. In fact, those who believe that they have had contact with somebody who is infected are advised to isolate themselves for 14 days, because that is the time between infection and the manifestation of the symptoms. That is why usually the people are advised to isolate themselves for 14 days. I pray that the good Lord himself will show mercy to this country and to the world at large and bring an end to this pestilence. God bless you.